All right, it is 5 o'clock and we have a quorum. So let's go ahead and get started. Minutes. Do we have any corrections or comments on the minutes? Well, hearing none, it sounds like the minutes stand as read. So, item 1, revisions to the city's official map.
Whoop, went too far. There we go. So every couple of years we go through and look at our official map and make sure that it's current. And that's simply the exercise we're doing now. It was prompted by a couple things. And so we thought, especially regarding the Ziegler Farm development, so we thought that we would take this through various committees before scheduling the public hearing that's required to update the official map. So I'll just show them the map itself and just see if you have any questions. I don't anticipate this being a lengthy discussion by any means. Sorry about all the scrolling. So the big change that we made was we've put in all the street networks that have been approved over the last couple of years and platted. We've modified the Greenway corridor and the official or the future street corridor to reflect wetland conditions that we've become aware of that are more extensive than originally thought. We've removed the Greenway corridor through this area. It's kind of where it's number 3. That's the Greenway corridor. Number 4 is that's the Ziegler Farm, by the way. Number 4 on the northeast side is the alignment of Bishops Bay Parkway. 5 is showing the extension of the North Mendota path going around the lake. And 6, 7, and 8 really don't have much to do with the Pedestrian Bicycle Transit Committee. I don't remember what 8 is now, but it's not drawing. So basically, we just wanted to see if you had any feedback. We're showing our trail systems here as part of the official map. So that's showing the continuity between the trail on the north side of Whittlesey Road and the established trail in the Misty Valley subdivision. I seem to be having mapping display issues. I hope that doesn't go the whole meeting because that would be very unfortunate. There we go. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question about number 2, where it's pointing. So how come there are 2 parcels that actually just got annexed into Middleton last night? One is showing up as solid green, the other one's showing up as a combination of what is it? Environmental corridor and future parkland. So why is one already future parkland and the other, like they should be the same?
Yeah, I would agree they should be the same. That sounds to me like it's a mapping error. I'll talk to Daphne about that. Thanks for catching that.
Okay, and then also I wonder, so there is going to be a hearing, so we'll have time to make other changes, yes?
Yeah, it would be good to make them, if you have changes, it'd be good to go to the public hearing with the final map. Is there a
Well, I'm thinking about the proposed plan now for the Ziegler development on the west side of High Road, having some sort of narrow, but existing buffer that they would maintain.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, we could yeah, I'm having problems zooming in, I guess. We could show that as well.
Okay. I think that would be good to do. And then I couldn't tell, Mark, I know this isn't for the Ped Bike and Transit Committee, but the number 7 seems to be showing, I can't tell if that's taking away an environmental corridor designation or adding one, because that's, if you remember, that's where the bike park is, or the skate park is, and it's hard to call that an environmental corridor.
Yeah, I think what I called it was extended fire, oh, that's Fireman's Park.
Actually, yeah, I'm sorry, is it 8?
Oh, yeah, that's number 8. Remove parkland dedication from the city-owned parking lot along Terrace Avenue to align with the environmental corridor revision. So it's just making it consistent.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. So I guess what I would ask the committee, are there any other ped bike facilities that you can think of? I can't think of any. We're showing the Cayuga connector. So that's been on our map for a while, and that's budgeted for next year. Take a poll of who's here too, by the way. Tom, Kirsten, Brad. Anybody have anything?
I do not.
Okay. So if there's no feedback, we could move on to the next item if you'd like.
Yep. Item number 2, preliminary plat and concept layout plan for Ziegler Farm neighborhood.
So I'll just display a map that I put in your packet late this morning. An updated map, I should say, wherever I can find it. Okay, here we are. Oh, interesting. It's not in the packet. Let me pull it up on email.
Mark, I think it's in the packet.
Well,
It's on page
I moved
22.
22. Yeah, but I'm on page 21 and
Oh, well, my packet has 44 pages. Maybe you're using the old one.
that's
Uh,
fair.
I am in the same situation as Lisa.
All right. Just a second. Oh, it hasn't synced. Interesting. It's still 43. Okay. Let me go to the website and get it. We've had some syncing problems every once in a while, but that's several hours ago. You'd think that would have synced by now. Let's see, agendas. Sorry about the delay. So what I received from the development team is a realignment of this is in a variation of alternative two, concept two, which has gone through now the Parks Board as well. And as well as Planning Commission and Public Works Committee have provided feedback, also the Sustainability Committee. So they squared off this road on the northeast side, which has allowed an additional curve, an additional lot to be developed, replacing a more gradual curve. They're showing a new path connection, which was actually shown on an initial version, so I'm glad to see that back, connecting the two parts of the development, east and west of High Road. And then here's the greenway buffer that Alder Nairo was talking about earlier. So that's been added. So the most important aspect of this from a ped bike standpoint is that here's the continuity, the missing link in the path system that we've always envisioned that is officially mapped. And then they're planning sidewalks. They're planning a path along the east side of High Road and that's on your next agenda item. We'll talk about that as well. And there will be sidewalks, no transit service. This was referred to from the Planning Commission for feedback. Oh, Kylie's here. Hi.
Kylie.
Kylie's our Parks and Rec director, for those of you who haven't met her.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm joining to it. But this did go to CLC Conservancy Lands
Oh, that's true.
Committee and PRFC Parks Rec and Forestry Commission to talk about the path. They did endorse that X, kind of as you're seeing with that regional connection. And they also put a recommendation in to create connection over by Graber. So any neighbors that are on the Misty Valley Drive could connect into the path system through that outlot, or through that kind of that little green space in between the houses off of Misty Valley, that they wouldn't have to walk on Graber Road because there isn't a sidewalk all the way down when you get to the path that shoots out on Graber Road. So having a connection where people wouldn't have to walk on Graber Road or go all the way up to the top. And you can't really see it all the way and mark on this plan. It's a little ways down yet.
Right here.
But yeah, over there, to get to that trailhead. And then also you would have to go up on the top to Misty Valley Road to get to that trail. So trying to create a connection in through that outlot. They're looking at a stormwater maintenance or outlot to get in access into their stormwater. So trying to create a pedestrian walkway through there. Both CLC and PRFC endorsed trail connectivity behind the lots along Misty Valley Road in between Graber Pond.
Thank you, Kylie. Kirsten.
Mark, you said that there's no transit planned for this neighborhood. Is that in the future plan at any time for this neighborhood?
Given the direction that Metro Transit has gone over the last couple of years with their redesign, I don't anticipate transit service in this area for the foreseeable future. If there were to be transit service in the future, I'm sure it would be limited to High Road and Bellefontaine. It wouldn't go on any of the neighborhood streets.
Okay, no, just making sure though that is in the talk for High Road.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The development team is also here if you have any questions. Matt Brink and
Okay.
Ryan Munson are both here. I should have introduced them earlier.
Awesome. That is great because I do have a question for them.
And
So
Wade Wise too, their engineer.
got it. Awesome. Just the people. I'm glad to be here. So my specific question is about roadway D and Waxwing Way. That is exactly the kind of intersection that I'd like to see as a raised intersection. However, I know that the grades in that area are pretty steep. So, honestly, this kind of applies to the entire east section. How much regrading is going to be going on? Because the grades themselves are relatively short, but they're often quite steep. Like I have tried on more than one occasion, I cannot on my regular acoustic bike cycle up High Road heading south. It's too steep for just too long for me. So yes, grades in that area. And especially on that intersection, because I know the steep grades could make a raised intersection difficult to impossible.
So I'll field that one. Brian Munson with Van Wall Associates. So yes, grade on this site in just about every corner except for the wetlands is pretty steep. So it's something we can look at, but I think coming down on Waxwing out of Red Tail Ridge, we're falling in grade to get to roadway D. From there, it falls over to High Road and continues to fall down Waxwing Way down to where it meets into Hood and Merganser. So there is a lot of grade change going on across these blocks and in between each lot. And so not sure if it would work, but it's something that we could take a look at.
And I can Wade Wise from Wiser Engineering here just to add to that, to numerically quantify it. A lot of the streets are set at an 8% slope, which would be consistent with some of the steeper slope streets in the city.
Tad, what's your thinking about why that intersection in particular would be a raised intersection?
Mostly just because it's a four-way intersection.
Got it.
I mean, it'd be great. Honestly, it'd be great to have them at all the T-junctions too. You know, these are all local streets. They should be quiet. So it'd be great to have, you know, state-of-the-art raised intersections at every intersection there. But again, yeah, I know how difficult the grades can be. It'd probably be much easier to get that on the west section from what I was seeing.
If there were a connection, a path connection going west from roadway C, you know, I could see that as helping break up the speeding on, you know, inevitable speeding on Misty Valley. But
right.
It sounds like four-way intersections are your priority, Ted. Okay.
If we can't get them everywhere, then yes.
Would a mini if we cannot put raised crosswalks there, would a mini traffic circle to slow traffic down, especially going downhill on Waxwing, would that be appropriate if it's too steep to, well, if a raised crosswalk isn't appropriate?
I can jump in here and say that we can look at any of these options, and with the steep slopes, making the intersections work with K values and other things, they get tricky. And based on our experience at Red Tail Ridge, kind of in the same dialogue, ultimately it wasn't supported by Public Works Committee, except for at a major arterial corridor where the raised intersection or circles were considered. So we're happy to take a look, but we're afraid we might run into hurdles with Public Works Committee.
Any other feedback?
So the other thing I had is I'm with Sean on removing the car outlet to roadway C onto High Road. Removing car intersections there. I think that's a good thing to do. The only distinction is I would make sure to make that a modal filter so that pedestrians and cyclists can still cross High Road there.
The implications of that would be to either create a cul-de-sac or to have the road bend either south or north to the other streets. And when you have a road bend like that, that affects, then you bring it in at an intersection that is really close to another intersection.
Right. I would lean towards the cul-de-sac because in this case it's a cul-de-sac that only affects car traffic and not pedestrian and bike traffic. I did actually have a third piece sort of related to that. So it'd be nice to see sidewalks connecting, well, pedestrian paths connecting roadway A to roadway C and roadway C to Graber at roughly the mid block of each of those. Those are both quite long blocks for a pedestrian. And it's one of those things where you walk a long way and you're still just at somebody else's house. You're not necessarily at any kind of destination. These blocks are very much automobile scale. rather than walking or biking scale. So I would like to see more of this kind of what you might call interlaid blocks, where you've got kind of an automobile block and a bike block inside it, and then a pedestrian block inside that. If that metaphor is not too.
Stonefield uses that.
Yes. Yes.
I think one challenge we would have in terms of a walkway. So first off, this graphic doesn't show it, but of course we'd have sidewalks on both sides of every street. We're anticipating sidewalks on the west side of High Road as well. I just realized it's not illustrated in this graphic. As far as connecting a walkway mid-block from A to C and C to Graber, one of the big challenges that this graphic doesn't show is the cross grade between the blocks, in that there is to go from Graber to roadway C in the middle, roughly, that's probably about 10 to 15 foot of grade change, and would represent either a significantly above 8% slope sidewalk or a sidewalk with stairs.
Darn hills.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough site. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Hills are a challenge on this one.
How do we feel about stairs, Mark? I think stairs are cool, but
Not ADA compliant, and they're a
right.
main problem for snow removal and potentially a tripping hazard. New Glarus uses them in their downtown, but I would not recommend that for various reasons.
Okay. Yeah, I can concede on that one for sure. I would, if this were in a downtown and there were a lot of things to do, I would still push for stairs in some cases, even though not everyone would be able to use them. But here, if, like I said, it'd be nice, but here with significant cross grades, yeah, they wouldn't provide enough additional benefit. Okay.
And Tad, at the end of roadway C, you're talking about something similar to Middleton Beach Road at the end by Harbor, correct? Where it's the cul-de-sac and the little walkway through, but no car traffic through.
Yeah, something similar to that.
Yeah, okay.
If I had my druthers, it would look less like a big American cul-de-sac and more like a Dutch modal filter, but you know, that's druthers.
There's one near Tiedemann Pond, correct? Where Sawmill, is it Sawmill or Long Meadow, not Sawmill.
Well, Middleton Street is not connected through. There's a
Correct.
barrier there.
Yep, and that's, yeah, so we could do something like that.
Well, I think our cul-de-sac design standard would be to put in a bulb for emergency responses. That would be our public works staff would insist on that as part of the subdivision ordinance that would require that type of design, and that would cut into, you know, a bulb is bigger than the street, unfortunately, than a typical street section.
I think the one challenge we would be concerned about too, and why I personally try to avoid cul-de-sacs in any of the neighborhoods I work on, unless there's a reason for it. In this case, we have one because of spacing. We didn't have enough north-south separation on this property to get a fourth roadway going east-west in it, hence the cul-de-sac on roadway B. The challenge and the reason why we avoid it whenever possible is because it then concentrates the vehicular traffic. All those houses would have to go up to Misty Valley and either to the north or to the south to Graber Road, rather than filter out in multiple directions out to High Road. And that's why, I know that had been brought up, it's something we had studied. We felt that just south of this, you can see coming out of Middleton Hills, there are 5 streets in sequence that come out and help distribute traffic in ways that then don't focus it into one location. And so that's why we went to, thank you, Mark. There you go. That's the kind of spacing this replicates. That's just further to the south. And by having more streets and distributing the traffic, we're hopeful that that helps keep those number of trips and cars on each intersection lower and allow them to be, more of a local street level crossing for pedestrians. We did look at if we bent roadway C to the north or to the south. Again, the grade challenges come to play, as well as a loss of 3 to 4 lots, depending on which configuration was selected. And so in this case, felt that having that connection out to High Road was beneficial both from the amount of houses that it helps deliver to the site, but then also distributing traffic.
Our public works staff is amenable to the spacing now. That was their initial concern, Tad.
Okay.
But they have not, that's not something that they've drawn a line in the sand on.
If we look at Orchid Heights and only having, is it Indigo and Heron? Is that true? Is that right? Only those 2 exiting to Q for that large neighborhood? Is that correct? Only is Indigo and Heron?
Well, and now there's a connection down here at Red Tail Pass.
Or
There's
Red Tail.
a third.
Red
There's a
Tail
third.
and-
No, your original statement is, I understand why you said it. It used to only have 2 access points. Now there's a third down here.
Okay.
What
Because that would be a good comparison, having those, that amount of homes and having only a couple exits to Q.
Yeah. So how many lots are on C?
It's about 13 or 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 11. Maybe 12 in this one. 3, 4, 5.
Right. So
12.
okay, so yeah, I don't want to draw a hard line in the sand either, but so this is one of those things where, yes, I understand the traffic distribution. It seems to me it's still a very small amount of traffic to be redistributed to other locals as a way of avoiding having too many sequences of intersections of these kind of semi-uncontrolled intersections, specifically along our collectors. And this is getting into more of a land use issue also. Some of those car trips, if this were instead a modal filter and we had a wider variety of land uses in the area, several of those car trips would become unnecessary to begin with, and the additional distance would both now be a way to kind of support the shorter distances of the cycling and pedestrian while not really hampering car drivers that much. That said, given the realities of the way everything up there is, yeah, if Public Works is fine with it, then okay. I'll just work on it 30 years from now.
I would note regarding the interblock walk, here's an example that I think of what Tad was describing, where there's a mid-block crosswalk opposite Coolidge Court between Franklin and North. The difference is this is a very flat site, as Brian noted. This is very hilly. The high point is basically Misty Valley Drive, and then it drops to the east fairly significantly. And there's grade changes between Graber, roadway C, and A. So it drops in 2 directions, and it makes it hard to put in these mid-block walks. We do have some up in the new Red Tail Ridge development that have come in kind of with a little step pattern to them, which I don't think is working out very well because of water accumulations and such. But I can understand why Tad is proposing it, given that there's 12 houses as a way to try and break up or to make it more pedestrian friendly. But I think there's limitations here. And what's this distance, Brian? This is about 500 feet, maybe, or about 600 feet. No, less than that, 500. Would you say? Can't hear you.
Let me just check just a second. I will see
And
if
the
I-
lots these are 50-foot lots, so there's 12 of them, so 600 feet is my guess. Maybe a little more. I'll measure the one on. North
Yeah,
Ave.
yeah, that's definitely my point, because that's about 2.5 minutes walk at engineering speed, so more like 3.5 at realistic speed.
Yeah.
It does get tedious. I walked home from City Hall last night, and there were some sections along Franklin where I thought, I still have not reached the Park Street. It was kind of ridiculous. Anyway. Any other comments? All right, next item. The High Road cross section between.
Just before we leave here,
okay.
is this, so what would you like the feedback?
Oh, right.
I
Well,
mean, I can document what you've stated. Planning Commission has asked for feedback from the committees, and I can just provide this
Right.
a list of comments, and that's fine. I just wanted to know if there was any specific direction you wanted instead of just leaving these comments hanging out there. If they're just your feedback, that's fine. I specifically am interested in the developer's response to roadway C and this trail extension, this path connection idea, since
right.
that came up from Parks and CLC.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, good evening. This is Matt Brink. I'm the Director of Land Development for Viridian. Yeah, I think as we look at roadway C and the new path connection that you see on the east side of High Road, the intention there was to provide easy access from the west parcel to the east. If we did have a cul-de-sac there, that would certainly impede flow to the regional trail section, and I wouldn't see as much need to have that additional trail connection added. So that's something that we would look to talk through. And then, yeah, just the other complications that Brian and Mark have alluded to relative to grade, and certainly the loss of lots. We're very sensitive to as we try to bring as many homes as we can to the community. So yeah, really appreciate the comments tonight, and we'll certainly take anything back that you would like us to look at, and we'll look at it very diligently. This is just a very complicated site, kind of out of the norms with all the grade challenges that we have. So yeah, that's only real, I guess, feedback I'd have at this point. But again, thank you everyone for your time tonight.
And I would add that, Matt, that you would, what Tad was saying is that there would still be, even if there were a cul-de-sac, he was still envisioning a road, or I mean a path connection through here.
Yes, it would
So-
only be a cul-de-sac for cars. It wouldn't end up being blocked by lots or anything. It would still connect to the path system.
So I think Kylie or Kirsten had her hand up.
Oh,
Tad.
Kirsten.
My only request is that any paths that are made through here be permeable, since we are building very close to wetlands
Mhm.
and the grades. So permeable paths do shed ice, snow, and all, and they dry faster, but especially because of the wetlands. I would suggest that we go that route. Penny Klein was a huge pusher of that path, and they do, although they are more expensive, they last almost twice as long.
I know that Kylie has an opinion on that, and it might be good to share that if you're comfortable sharing that, Kylie.
For the location or what specific?
The trail surface being porous or permeable asphalt.
Yeah, if it was impermeable surface or that we wouldn't be looking at porous pavement for asphalt, we would be looking at crushed aggregate or limestone. That would be the other alternative. So our asphalt standard for that would match some of our newer paths that we have put in place, such as the creek corridor. But that's the direction that we'd like to go moving forward with asphalt paths through sections, but we can explore what surface, if it is asphalt versus that screening trail through there.
I think to summarize what Kylie is saying is the city has decided to shift away from porous asphalt. I think in a one sentence summary, that's what I understand the policy to be.
Yeah, I heard that. I think that's a really big mistake, especially showing the floods and the issues that we've had in the past and being very close to wetlands. And definitely it should not be crushed limestone because they're not year-round paths then. But being that close to Great Bear Pond and low-lying area, I really think that the city should consider permeable asphalt.
Can I ask, where is this policy written anywhere?
We don't have a policy for what surfacing, what would go in what location, because it's all kind of dependent on that, if it's a boardwalk area or that as well.
Okay, I'm sorry, I took down notes and I thought Mark said policy-wise, the city's moving away from porous asphalt. And I was just wondering.
It's my understanding that we've been shifting away from it for the reasons that Kylie stated. I think there's concerns about meeting specifications and durability. I don't know how else to, it's just my understanding. I'm not, she's the resource for that.
Yep. I thought Kirsten just said they last twice as long.
Mm.
So maybe we need
That
to
would
get,
be something we could definitely get some more data on. For longevity, we've had several issues with porous pavement on. We are going through an entire GIS, and I don't want to take away from the conversation from Ziegler, but we can definitely explore this in another conversation too. But we are working on GISing our entire trail system with a pacer rating on all of them, and we do have a lot of issues when it comes to that that porous pavement. It's not meeting safety standards in that, so we are looking at a very high expense for replacement in a lot of areas to make our trail system safer on that end. But once we get our full pacer rating, that will be something we'll be showing to the community and to committees as well.
Lisa, we might want to look back at the work that Penny Klein did on this, because she and I talked 20 years ago regarding this. She was the big pusher to get permeable asphalt along Allen Boulevard. That is what it is. And then also on the creek corridor prior to the flood. It does dry and it sheds ice and snow at a much greater rate and filters the water through. And it is much more expensive up front. But what Penny and I had seen in all the studies is that the long-term costs are considerably lower.
I will jump in here and just suggest that as we consider this and we look closer at it, one thing to consider is you look at the layout of our stormwater management facilities on this site, they are pushed uphill. We have done an exhaustive search and look at the soils, and any path in a close to proximity wetland with porous asphalt is going to have a tough time draining. So I'm not saying that we can't look at it, but I'm suggesting as we've worked with city engineering and designed the stormwater management, and we've pushed infiltration of stormwater facilities uphill, those considerations should be part of this discussion as well.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we pushed them uphill to get them into better soils for infiltration purposes. As you go lower on the site, we pick up a lot of clay. And so infiltration into those soils is difficult. And if that's underlying permeable asphalt, that can create a challenge down the road in terms of long-term viability. One other thing I just wanted to note about the comment from a trail from Misty Valley Drive down to roughly Graber Pond. That's something we can take a look at. Again, grade is our challenge. Just to give a point of reference, Graber Pond's down at about 905. Misty Valley Road is up at 935. So we've got to span 30 feet of grade coming to the west down to Graber Pond, which could make for a very steep path, but we could take a look to see if there is any alignment that could get that up there.
Okay, I think that's, I'll just list the discussion and feedback. I'll try and keep it short, Lisa, for the minutes.
Yeah, I think that's for the best. All right.
Well, I would like
Oh,
it
sorry.
noted that, thank you, I would like it noted that there's consensus, I think, on the new path connection and the alignment of the
Yes.
forward and path.
Yes, I like the XPath.
So specifically the red X, basically,
Yeah.
is what you're getting at. Okay. I wasn't sure what the takeaway was for the pass to the west here from roadway C
Oh.
that's not shown. So I wasn't sure if that was, I didn't fully understand what the discussion was at Parks. I guess I didn't stay for that part of it, but Kylie, what did you say there?
Sorry, the path that would, over there, we just want to make sure there's connection for, into the trail system,
here.
that we have. I know there's grade issue, or I know that's been brought up several times through this meeting and our previous meeting, but trying to have trail connectivity. We like to look at something that would border some of those lots to create a fire break if the Conservancy lands, if we do manage that as Conservancy lands, trails that border some of those lots would really help to create a natural fire break for our restoration efforts in that area and make it a little bit easier. So.
Okay.
All right. Item number 3, the high road cross section.
Thanks for coming, Kylie, by the way. The Public Works staff has asked that we provide, gave us an opportunity as a committee to provide feedback, input into the design of High Road. And so I took the liberty of looking at various, you may have seen them in your packet. These are excerpts from our standards, typical street sections, which were developed about 18 years ago. And obviously one size doesn't fit all. I then compared that with the existing conditions. Those are measurements that are, where the right of way varies along the corridor. And based on that analysis, I came up with this concept of knowing that we needed to have a path on the east side of the road to provide continuity with the Redtail Ridge path to the north. We have ample right of way of 105 feet in some places, and this plat is dedicating that, would be dedicating that much, so we have plenty of room. We don't want to see a 4-lane road. We don't see a need for that. We know that High Road to the south has bike lanes, so here's an opportunity to put in bike lanes that are buffered with, I was going to suggest, with paint. It's harder to do with bollards and a curb for maintenance, but I know that's preferred, but it raises maintenance issues. And then having wide street terraces for better tree growth with a sidewalk on the west. And that would look roughly like this. I'm suggesting that at the 3-way intersections that there be this extra width to accommodate pedestrian refuge. We don't necessarily need left turn lanes. But it would give us the flexibility to do that if that was ever deemed necessary. It certainly would be desirable up at Bellefontaine and High Road intersection. So that's what I have. Here's the Bellefontaine and High Road intersection. So I'll turn it back over to you, Ted.
I think it's a pretty great design. What does everybody else think? Kirsten?
I really like it. Are we thinking about an RRFB at Spring Hill, especially because of North Side Elementary being there?
At Spring Hill, up the hill, you mean?
Because Spring Hill is a really major crossing from Middleton Hills over.
Right.
I love this. I love the plan. I would just recommend an RRFB at Spring Hill as well.
So that when people come up either side of the road, or if they're on the path, they would have a way to cross up here, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
Just especially because of North Side Elementary.
That's in my district, so I certainly would support having that, but once the sidewalk is in place on the west side of the street, students coming from north side to get up to Misty Valley will be able to stay on the west side of the street, whereas they can't now because there isn't a sidewalk there. And students who are coming from Red Tail Ridge and the new development could in theory cross at Bellefontaine, or I'm sorry, at Keneal Trail where there's an RRFB and be safe that way. So I'm not objecting to it. I'm just mentioning that at the rate that we do these right now, it's one per year. And while I think, Spring Hill Drive makes sense, I'm also mindful that there might be other areas within Middleton where my colleagues would think it's necessary to have one.
Is there any way to slow traffic then near Spring Hill just because it is on the downslope heading north and people will be picking up a great deal of speed?
I think if we could figure out a way to do that, that would be amazing and my constituents would greatly appreciate it. But I don't know what you could do other than put in a stop sign or have a police car parked to watch for speeders.
A raised intersection at High Road and Graber would slow people down in a hurry.
Or send them flying.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about the Spring Hill intersection. I'm trying to picture it. You're going up a pretty big hill there, is that right? I'm trying to your
Yes,
Spring
that's
Hill
the
is
hill.
just
That's the hill that Ted is unable to ride his bike up.
right. So I'm just wondering what would happen there, both in terms of where cars would be stopping on the hill, and I'm just imagining it in terms of bad weather and whether it's up and then it levels off there, or it's still on the way up. I'm thinking it levels off a little bit. I'm just
The
trying
hill
to
starts down here and continues all the way up to about by about the water towers, the top.
Okay, and it doesn't level off though a little bit at Spring Hill, or is it straight up?
There's a little bit of a.
It's
I wouldn't call it level. At the
still going
intersection,
up.
it does get steeper. So in other words, when you go down from the water tower, it's not as steep, but then after Spring Hill, it drops down.
Okay, well, that helps. That view helps to see.
Yeah, then you can, so yeah, it's definitely the steepest part is right here.
All
I
right.
used to live at this intersection, so I know it very well.
Well, part of what I was wondering about is the visibility coming then from heading south on the, this one over the little hill here, whether if there's people stopping, whether they'd be visible or not.
Well, if I may, this is obviously not going to be touched with this future project. It's something that the city could look at in the future for how to improve this intersection, but the focus of the What we're talking about is where this sidewalk ends and where the urban section ends and continues north. I mean, this is a good discussion for down here, but I think that's not something that we have to necessarily consider as part of this project. I mean, we could, but I think the focus is the rural part. So going back to, so generally I'm hearing that this is, you support this idea and concept.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
And I
my
do,
time paid off.
and I do think that partly because of those hills, we will likely want those left turn lanes, at least at the intersections.
Well, I mean, we
To-
don't have, the reason I suggested it was just to show that I wanted to have the design have
Right,
the
yeah.
ability to do it. We don't
Yeah.
have left turn lanes at most locations. You know, we don't have them here either. And there's not necessarily a need for them. And arguably there's more cars turning down here because there's more,
Okay.
there's more development. I thought it would be especially important in the future to plan for a left turn lane at Bellefontaine,
I
this
agree.
intersection. Whether we need them here is there's Keneal and then there's 3 other streets coming in, one up here. What I was simply trying to show was that if there was
There's room.
for some reason a need for it, it could be done.
Right.
More importantly, that we have a pedestrian refuge.
Yes. Okay. That sounds good.
May I ask a couple questions? One, so Mark, what's the width of this cross section? I thought you
So,
said-
yeah, I had it down here. It varies from 81 to 87 feet with a variable median width. So if you add all these numbers up, that's the 81 feet to 87. So 10-foot travel lanes. I thought I was channeling my Pedbike Transit Committee members to say, let's not do 11-foot lanes, let's do 10-foot. Tad's giving me 2 thumbs up. So I know bike lanes are needed by people who prefer biking on the street, and then having them with some buffer is good. I don't think we're not at a point in Middleton where we're comfortable with putting in protected bike lanes, even though I know that's more desirable. We at least have a path on one side if somebody wants the protected lanes. Having a protected lane with a barricade or a curb is just not very practical from a maintenance standpoint. So at least importantly, we are having the 10-foot path on the east side. That's the thinking.
Okay, and there's sufficient width all the way and continuity all the way up? Even
It's
past the house
with-
that's still in Springfield?
Well, that's a good point. That's the only one, and you can see where the sidewalk is here. That's the only one with the constraint. And what I was thinking, and I didn't measure this, but I was thinking, we're not going to be able to put the sidewalk across their property. So we may end up having a gap there unless this part here where this is right of way boundaries, and this part would be dedicated by this plat. So this will be a straight north-south line. The edge of the road would be right along, the property line. Where's the overall view here? Here it is. This is a better view. Sorry. So this line here will end up being straight south. It'll be a straightening of this line, the Red Tail Ridge line, and then over here, this would be dedicated as well. So the answer to your question is, with the exception of the house, everything else would be able to accommodate the section, the design. The only constraint would be that no sidewalk would exist alongside the rural house.
Unless we could convince the owner to give us an easement
Right.
or land. Okay.
I mean, the only other option would be to shift the road and go around. I don't know. I suppose that's something Public Works can discuss.
Or could we shrink the terrace a little bit in that section? I mean,
Yeah.
we'll shift the sidewalk.
Yeah, maybe
Right.
the sidewalk temporarily comes in and is alongside the road at that point. It's just an unfortunate situation. It's you know, there are options. If somebody's walking here, they can just cross the street up here and come down. There are other options. There's the path
Yeah.
option. So,
Yeah, I'm not for that at all. I think having a gap and forcing somebody to do a double crossing over a fairly busy road
Right.
is not appropriate at all.
understood.
I guess the only other thing is I know 5 foot is still our standard, but for a sidewalk, but I'd still like it to be 6. So even though it's still out a bit in the country, it'd still be nice. I'm sure someday there will be 2 people in wheelchairs who need to pass each other.
Okay, so I think my takeaway is that you are supportive of this.
We are very supportive, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Item 4, petition requesting city to consider paving certain gravel trails in the Pheasant Branch Conservancy.
Yeah, we have couple. Well, now I see one person here. Chuck Nahn is here. Earlier I saw the name Charlie and I assumed that was Charlie Crow, but I don't see him here now.
I signed it, Mark.
Oh, okay. Kirsten signed it too. So Chuck, would you like to, Tad, would you like Chuck to?
I would like Chuck to speak, yes.
Okay. And then he also sent me an email with some photos, which I can provide as well here. Chuck, the floor is yours. We don't hear you though. Let me see if I'll unmute you. I asked to unmute you. Still don't hear you. There you go. Try it now.
Okay.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me
Good.
now? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you everyone for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Chuck Nahn and I live in 5623 Sandhill Drive in the North Lake subdivision in Middleton. And we're kind of landlocked here in the northeast part of Middleton, in that we're bounded by busy highway Q to the east and Century Avenue to the south, and then the Conservancy off to our west. And I guess I've often thought that would like to pave the trail just extending from the bend at Highland Way down to Dahlia Court. That would be a connection that would allow us to have non-vehicular access to all the rest of the city services that are south of Century. I have a personal thing in that I was biking home one night trying to go down that gravel hill, and I hit the ravine at the bottom. There was a little rain event that had washed out the trail, and literally went head over my bike and landed on my face on the gravel trail, scraped my face out, and broke a rib on that section of the trail. I think it is very unsafe, and I think the fact that it washes out after almost every rain event, leaves divots that are really impossible to cross, particularly at the bottom where all the water accumulates. It washes out the fine gravel, and you're left with a kind of a loose gravel thing that you literally cannot bike through at all. You have to walk your bike through about 10 to 20 feet because you just fishtail as you try to bike through there. The other thing I just would like to mention, my next door neighbor here is Charlie Crow, and Charlie is handicapped in a wheelchair. And he shared with me that he's been trying to get up into that section of the trail and has gotten stuck, and his sisters come trying to push him out and can't push him out. And certainly that trail is not ADA accessible. And I think if we put in pavement, it would be accessible. So I guess I generated this petition, and I just want to get your input in terms of what you would think about the possibility of paving this trail. I think, and this is my own personal opinion, I guess, but I've worked with Penny Klein in the past at doing porous asphalt, and we've had real good success in putting in porous asphalt. I think this trail would be a good proponent for using porous asphalt because of the drainage problems it has. I know that was discussed earlier. That's obviously not a big deal whether it is or isn't, but I think in this case that might be something that would be suitable. You see there, those are the pictures of the trail I'm talking about. You know, it is a sizable hill as it goes up to where the water tower is, from Highland Way at the south end to Dahlia Court, but it's paved on both sides, and that would allow us to get access to the fabulous trail that's been built along Century Avenue. That's a great trail, but the problem is right now for us to get access to it, we have to go down busy Valley Ridge Road, which is a collector street, and there's a very dangerous intersection at the Valley Ridge Road and Century Avenue. As you're coming down Valley Ridge Road, trying to turn right onto Century, there's a blind curve there, blind turn, where you can't see people coming on the trail from the west. And conversely, when you're coming back, going up the hill to get to Valley Ridge from Century, you have to cross that intersection to get on the road. And all the cars that are going down that hill are looking the opposite way to see if they can get out to the traffic on Century. They're not looking in the direction that a bike would be coming up that trail to turn on there. So like I said, these are some reasons I think that I would like to have considered that would be a paved trail.
This was presented to the council a month ago, and the city administrator asked that the Ped Bike Transit Committee review it as the first committee to review it. We have a couple of hands up, Ted.
Kirsten.
So this is my backyard. This trail actually runs through my backyard. And I agree that the Valley Ridge Century intersection is extremely dangerous. And I do believe that the path going down from the water tower, and I'm a seasoned cyclist and mountain biker, gravel rider. I take it extremely easy going down. It is like loose kitty litter oftentimes at the bottom. That's the best way I can describe it. And I've had close calls, even as a seasoned gravel cyclist, going down that hill. It does get washed out with almost every rain event. The one thing, I was one of the first people to sign this petition. The one thing that would have to happen is we'd have to do a switchback because of the gradient up the hill. So we'd have to get approval to be cutting more into the prairie. But I think a switchback, I think would be lovely. I mean, this is more of a recreational path versus a commuter path, and winding through the prairie would be beautiful. And especially if using permeable surface so that drainage is proper through into the wetlands.
The reason you're talking about a switchback, Kirsten, is because of ADA design standards? Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. And also erosion, because even if we just paved the trail that's already existing, we're going to get extreme erosion on either side of the trail. I actually do trail building at Blackhawk. We would have to either have to put drainage underneath the path to divert the water if we kept it at the gradient that it is now, or we have to lower the gradient to help prevent erosion. But then the switchback would also make it more ADA. And we do have the wheelchairs, the ADA wheelchairs, down right where this dumps out, pretty much in Orchid Heights Park. And what a great opportunity for people to be able to go up there then.
I thought,
Yeah, if I
those
can just
wheelchairs were gone.
Are they?
No,
I didn't know that.
The shed is still there. I don't know if there's wheelchairs in there, but the shed is still there.
Okay.
One thing I would like to address, first off from Charlie Crow, he wanted to be here tonight, but he couldn't be here. But he said, I would like to focus on the portion of the trail that goes through the loop on the North Lake side of Century Avenue to make it safer and easier to traverse for everyone. And I would like to point out, it is a multi-use trail that is far away really from the environmentally sensitive parts of the Conservancy. And I think providing access for the multiple users is what the purpose of this trail. And right now it's not being provided. The slope is 6.8%. And right now it's 6.8%. And the allowable ADA slope is 5%. So person is correct. We would probably have to put some switchbacks in there to get it to be a little bit less of a slope. Also, the gravel is not considered ADA acceptable, and pavement would obviously provide that ADA accessibility.
Lisa.
Thanks. I'm sympathetic to this request. I live on the other side of the Conservancy, and just from a bicyclist's perspective, there are a lot of places where it's, not quite as bad as this hill, the grade, but it's dangerous to ride after any rain. There are deep divots. There are areas where it is like kitty litter, sometimes coming down a hill or trying to get up a hill. So I guess my thought about this is we shouldn't be considering just one spot. We should be looking at the Conservancy as a whole to make sure that it's ADA accessible. I don't believe the wheelchairs are available anymore, not at Orchid Heights Park. They need to be reserved in advance and picked up by the user, which is as good as not having any available, in my opinion. So even if it's not possible for the city to do all of the trail work that might need to be done in 1 year, I think this should be looked at more broadly for all parts of the Conservancy path, where right now the gravel is making it either inaccessible for certain users or dangerous for others. And I say that knowing that we also need to be mindful of the impact that this could have on the function of the Conservancy, right? The whole issue of are we creating more runoff and more pollution that's going to, or cutting off paths for wildlife to cross? I think this needs to be looked at real big picture before we take any specific action on any segment of the Conservancy. And of course, the Friends of Pheasant Branch will have a great interest in any suggestion to increase the amount of pavement. So just be aware of that.
Todd.
Yeah, I agree with Alder Hunter. I think that this should be looked at holistically. I do not disagree with this in the comments that folks have raised. But in addition to the holistic look at this, for the entire Pheasant Branch area, I also think that we should look back at the reasoning, rationale, logic, for why it is the way it is now, and make sure that those particular concerns aren't still outstanding. And I don't know, and I wasn't here in 2009 when that plan was put together, but in the plan, it specifically says that there have been numerous requests from trail users who desire more passive recreational opportunities. So, like I said, I don't not support this, but there was some reasoning and rationale for this in the first place. And if we are going to move forward, I agree with Alder Hanera thinking that we should also look at the entire Pheasant Branch Conservancy, but also acknowledge the original intent for this and make sure that those concerns are incorporated into whatever we do in the future.
I'll just say, for the perspective of the longtime staff person. There was, it's been a debate for 25 plus years, the trail system in the Conservancy. When it was established, when the west side was established, then the north side, and then finally the southeast loop, as it's called, there was a definite interest in the community to have to maintain them as gravel. There was a group of people that supported paving, but that was a debate that was had and had come up at various times over the years. We have had some longtime experience now with maintenance, and Kylie and her predecessors are better able to speak to that than I am. But yes, there are washouts in various places, especially where there's topography. There's problems with water standing with the freeze thaw cycle and after a rain along Pheasant Branch Road. There's the issues that Chuck cited, and that was a number of years ago now that he had his pretty severe accident, as I recall. And I think you said, I didn't know you had broken a rib, but I remember seeing the rash in photo, but that was, so yeah, that's unfortunate and very obviously a safety issue. The North Mendota Trail, the construction of that was intended to be to provide a paved connection to the northeast side instead of partially instead of paving the southeast trail. This connection here is more upland oriented. It's away from the wetlands. I can see the merit in continuity for having this connection here. I do think there would be a substantial community debate and pushback to paving other sections, or at least certainly the entire loop. So that's the history that I can offer.
I guess I would just like to add, we would certainly support, the holistic approach there. I think the problem that I run up against is that a good portion of the trail up by the springs and that is county owned. It's not city land. So
right here,
what's that?
From this spot right here.
Oh, yeah.
This spot at the corner of North Lake, from here to the north and west is in the county's jurisdiction, coming back down to almost Whittlesey Road, and then it returns to the city's jurisdiction.
Right. This would give us at least something that I think the city is in the city's wheelhouse to do. And it's just a critical connection for us then to be able to get from the end of the Dahlia Court pavement, just up that hill and get to Highland Way. Once we get to Highland Way, we're on that trail, and eventually in 2 years, I know there's going to be hopefully an underpass underneath Century Avenue when they redo the Century Avenue Bridge. This could be a safe route to school for some of our kids that need to go to Cromrie. There's just a lot of things that are south of Century that right now, us in North Lake and Orchid Heights and also Highlands of Bishops Bay have no way to access it non-vehicular than the gravel trail that we're talking about, or going through the part below Wood Creek condos. But that's a very small area of the trail, and I think this would have the benefit of actually pushing some of the bikers away from going that way, and they would go up this route and not go on that part of the gravel trail that is below the Wood Creek condos, that is very very narrow and unsafe because of that.
And I would just add that the description of how difficult it is to get from this neighborhood down to Century and access the existing trails there, that without using a car, that's the same thing we have on the west side. To get from Whittlesey Road and Middleton Hills in general, there's no sidewalk on Pheasant Branch. There's really I would never ride my bike on Pheasant Branch Road. And so to take the path is just about the only option to get to Century. And it is just not something that a lot of people can do. Certainly not somebody using a wheelchair.
I think that we need to bring this up as a vulnerable user situation and really talk about safe routes to school when we present this. Safe routes to school, safe routes to work for both sides.
Yeah, from our perspective, all the city services that we would love to use, the library, the city hall, it's all south of Century, and we're north of Century. And the northeast section in particular, I think, is a little bit isolated. I know I've seen a lot of the newer developments have trails integrated into them, but unfortunately, North Lake did not have that when this was developed.
Yeah, and I think we'd also want to focus on the designation of this trail. You know, that this trail is designated as multi-use, and in the city plan, it says that, you know, bicyclists may have a harder time during wet times and during the winter. But I've been on this trail with my bike too, and I agree with you, Chuck. I don't think it's meeting its designated use in certain areas. There are places that you can't bike through, even in dry conditions, and it's so that's another point as well for this.
One other idea I would mention, just again from the perspective I've had of being here a number of years, is user conflicts. We haven't really talked about that, but that is one of the concerns that has been raised about paving, and then associated speeds, increased speeds for bicyclists. Also, some runners have said they don't prefer the asphalt; they prefer non-asphalt surfaces. I'm just bringing up the full, you know, for all the perspectives that we've heard over the years. Obviously, one way to deal with that is to provide a separate facility, like a separate paved route or a separate gravel route, whatever you have, but that starts getting into extra costs and maintenance expenses, things like that.
I think those are good points, Mark, and I'm also mindful that we have the survey for the transportation, the active transportation plan, and also the survey for Conservancy Lands Plan, and I would hope we'd be able to get some information from those regarding what residents were saying about both these things.
Kylie.
Hi. Yeah, I don't want to go through all of these things on this platform here, but they're just to bring up that we are having our conservancy master planning at this time, and trails have been a part of the surveying throughout our entire system. So we will be getting some information and recommendations and data back from that. And then we are in conversation and communication with Dane County just on master planning for the entire conservancy. We'd want to work with Friends of Pheasant Branch and Dane County. They haven't done a master plan for numerous years, but we want to do a joint one at that time to look at just how we're managing it as a partner, as a partnership with those three entities or organizations. And then that might be a good time to look at all of our trails, and usage is a big thing too, and environmentally sensitive. We just are redoing that entire prairie section. We've been working very heavily on with Friends of Pheasant Branch on all of the prairie areas in discussion around that trail segment, put thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours into redoing that entire prairie, and will continue to do so. Redoing a trail in that area is going to affect the environment for sure, and where it's at because of the grade. You can't just slap asphalt down over top of where that existing trail is. It would have to be reconstructed quite heavily and disturb quite a bit of that prairie and all the restoration effort that we've been putting in. So that would be that would be a big conversation there. And then ADA accessibility, there are ways to assess our ADA accessibility throughout our entire trail system, holistically throughout our entire trail system and through the Conservancy. Crushed aggregate is ADA compliant. I know but it does depend on grade. And it does depend on the,
No,
the
gravel is not considered ADA accessible. You have to add some type of sealant to seal it.
And I can provide that standard specification for what crushed limestone is ADA compliant, so I can provide that information if anybody'd like it. It is ADA compliant if it is at a specified grade. And then also we don't have wheelchairs. I know that was brought up. We don't have those accessible wheelchairs. I can look into that program a little bit further. It was gone before my time. I'm not sure what or why exactly. I have a few tidbits of information of why they pulled those wheelchairs. And then I just wanted to also bring up that with all of our trail system, I brought this up earlier, we are looking at our entire trail system of what deferred maintenance, and we have hundreds of thousands of dollars in deferred maintenance on our existing trail system that really needs to be considered when we're adding new. It's really great to add new and do things above and beyond, but there are trails that are in very poor and unsafe conditions, and we need to make sure we're allocating funds towards a maintenance program before adding further asphalt throughout the entire city. So that's something I would like to be considered when we get a maintenance program built as well. But that's kind of what I have.
Mark, could you refresh me on what we're expecting to do with this tonight?
Well, I was asked to bring it to the committee by our city administrator to provide feedback and guidance that you have. It sounds to me like there is some interest in looking at issues holistically. There's a question about ADA accessibility. I mean, I guess I defer to you in terms of what other information you would like to deal with this. Would you like another committee to also weigh in? I mean, I don't really have any other advice for you other than we're looking for feedback from the Ped Bike Transit Committee.
All right. And we have given feedback.
Ultimately, it's up to the alders, the two alders here,
Got
and
it.
their colleagues to decide how to proceed with this, obviously.
All right. Does anybody else have any remaining feedback then? All right. Trail etiquette.
I don't have any packet for that. That was something that Alder Hanairo requested. And I also just want to point out that it's, I think, 6:20. Kirsten
It
said,
is.
oh, she's already gone.
She's already gone. Yep.
Okay.
We are.
This is kind of a nice segue, actually, Lisa, because we were just talking about. I feel like all these issues, the agenda has all been segueing pretty well.
Yes, and I asked for this to be on the agenda simply because I get this as a concern expressed by constituents all the time. People, bikes speeding past people, and then walkers, and then as a bike rider myself, I recognize that there are a lot of hazardous behaviors on the part of people who are walking, especially if they're taking up the whole trail or letting their dog go off to the left, and there doesn't seem to be consistency in cyclists signaling far enough ahead. There doesn't seem to be awareness on the part of people who are walking or running that they need to be paying attention to, and even what on your left or passing on your left means. I can't tell you how many times I've said that, and the person literally moves to the left. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm getting this wrong. So I know we have discussed this in the past. Mark, I think you shared some signage from Fort Collins, Colorado, I think you brought back.
Yeah.
I feel like over the winter is a good time for us as a committee to figure out how we want to turn this into some action to improve trail etiquette, and including things like having a suggested speed limit or a courtesy speed limit.
Yeah, and just reaffirming the need. I too have had quite a few concerns and comments by folks that use that trail. The most concerns that I've had, over the summer and the spring, since I've been older, have been concerns of pedestrians regarding the speed of e-bikes, and that has been the biggest concern that I have heard. So thank you for bringing this up, Alder Hanaro, because I have received the same exact comments.
Kylie?
I'm sorry, I'm speaking so much tonight on your meeting. I haven't been to one of these yet, so, but we as our Parks and Rec department, we are working on our budget was just approved last night, or endorsed with further budget to go through for a Parks Ranger position. So that is something where we are working with the Dane County and City of Madison to implement a park ranger. It'll be limited or part-time, and it won't start through this winter, but we are looking at getting that in place. I think it will help a lot through our trail system. We're going to be focusing on trail etiquette in that, as we also get a lot of comments, concerns, and questions through our department. And then our dog parks are going to be two of our, and rentals will be those three things are going to be kind of higher on the list to monitor. But again, that'll be part-time. We're starting off slow so that it can be a successful program. And that might be a way to help Lisa. I'm happy to talk about that further, and also reviewing the Conservancy and Parks ordinance and how that can help support us through that effort.
I think it's fun that this question is about education, and Kylie also brought up enforcement. Because now I'm gonna say that it's great that we're starting with that. I would like to, as we discuss these things, I would like to, as we're seeing issues, I would like to us to keep in mind, even though yes, it requires capital budget requests, keep in mind areas where these things will be better solved with engineering, because at least one of the problems with these facilities, it's not a problem per se, but part of the issue is that we are frequently sticking multiple kinds of users together on a simple facility and saying, you guys figure it out. So etiquette education, very important. Enforcement, very important. Both of those things can only go so far, and we'll want to be alert for opportunities. This kind of bridges back to the user conflicts that Mark was talking about with the Pheasant Ranch Conservancy as well. Runners want different things from cyclists, from racing cyclists, from gravel cyclists, from people who just want to shop on their bike. So we just need to keep that in mind as we're going forward. Lisa, did you have anything more specific that you wanted to work on tonight?
No, I just wanted to, I guess, when we get to the updates, when we talk about our work plan, I think this is something that we need to organize
Right.
people to start working with Kylie and others to
Okay.
get this ball rolling.
All right, item 6. Joint meeting with Public Works.
I heard from the chair of the Public Works Committee that he would like to have the meeting on December 9th, not on November 11th, because one of his committee members who wants to be involved in this is not available on the 11th. So the question now is this group available to meet on a different night? December 9th is a Monday, coincides with the Public Works Committee. Would that work for you? And would you want that meeting to be an additional meeting in December, or would you like just that to be just the December meeting? Which would be my preference.
What was the other option that they gave us?
11th or then, no, they gave the options of, well, staff working with Sean, we were suggesting either November 11th or December 9th, but at this point, the 9th is what we're aiming for.
Yep. Well, there's one member who can't do it on the 9th. And
Oh, then it's you?
And that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
I don't want to stand in the way.
I can do it on the 9th.
And I should have mentioned in there why they wanted to meet. I think it's because of, I think the idea is to discuss various topics, in particular, developing criteria for when we use certain, developing certain criteria and policies that aren't in place right now. I'm going to pull up the email. I should have put that in the description. There's several items of mutual interest, let's just say. That's not it. Here it is. Yeah, a policy that would, for some criteria for design and installation of traffic calming features. So that's the topic. Criteria for design, installation of traffic calming features.
If this meeting does take place and I'm not there, I think it would also be useful to talk to them about the suggestion that this committee made back when council was asking for input from committees about possibilities for consolidating the committees.
The liaison position.
Switching the direction of the liaison. Yeah.
Exactly. And if we can get them to agree that this is a good idea, then I think having both committees request the council make that happen before the next round of appointments are made, I think that would be important.
Good idea. So the rest of it, sorry, Ted.
I was gonna ask, so if we schedule this joint meeting, does it need to be that each committee sends a quorum, or it would just need to be a quorum of the combined?
No, each committee would need to have a quorum.
Okay.
I mean, if it ends up just being representatives of this committee, then it's not a joint meeting per se.
Right. Got it.
Yeah.
In theory, Carrie Schiffner would count as quorum towards
As
both
both,
committees for quorum. So hopefully, I presume she'd be available for that meeting. So Brad and Todd or Steve, are you available? Tom?
Yeah, I think a joint meeting would be good, and I am available on December 9th.
Okay.
I'm available.
Okay.
Yes, I can be there too.
Okay. All right, so I'll give that feedback about the 2 agenda items and the availability. Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, update. Complete Streets Guide. Yeah, I have finished. My computer's running a bit slow, so I'm not gonna pull up my notes at the moment. I have finished going over the Madison guide. I need to synthesize my notes to a more useful format, and then I can provide them to the rest of the committee. I've also started going over some of the Federal Highway Administration's what do they call it? Safe. Oh,
Safe routes to school?
no.
Hmm.
It's, safe system approach. There it is. Yes, the DOT safe system approach. And so that's the general way the U.S. Department of Transportation is recommending street design. So yes, I guess I've got some of the work done. I will pass out my notes here in a few days, and what do I want from that?
So if you, how about this,
I'm
Ted?
not sure.
If
Yeah.
you provide your notes and would like me to distribute them to the committee, I can do that. Maybe that's even something that would be good to discuss briefly with Public Works as well.
Yes.
So why don't you, in the next couple of weeks, when you get a chance to wrap that up, if you're able to before then, I can review that then with my colleague in engineering, and
All right.
we can discuss whether, does that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Active transportation plan.
I had originally hoped to have the survey results available to you, but my colleague Daphne is working on a map to do some mapping with it, and she wasn't. We just, due to workload, we haven't been able to get that completed yet. So I don't have an update for you. We had 375 responses total, which I think is quite good to the survey. And then the last item is the work plan.
Mhm.
We didn't get to that last time. I didn't change it from last time. Alder Nairo, I think, mentioned adding something, and sorry, I don't recall what that is right now. I think you emailed me about it, and I didn't put
Well,
it
I
on.
think it's a trail etiquette, which is on there, but it's kind of subsumed into the coordination with police department, but
Oh, okay, got it.
yeah,
Okay.
as long as the
Let's just
trail
call it.
etiquette and signage part doesn't get lost in that.
Okay. Is there an interest in um, well, Lisa, you were talking about doing this working on this over the winter, so not at this point, putting anything in motion. Okay.
Well, winter's coming up. I mean, I think it's fine to put in there that, we want to have something for the spring and more than consider follow-up training opportunities, work between this committee and maybe even PRFC members and CLC on trail etiquette, signage, and
Okay.
user rights.
All right. And then I was going to mention as a future item that we have, I met with Jake Ungerer, our community liaison officer. He and I are starting to plan for a big bike rodeo event next spring. He directs the volunteers and policing program, which I also am a member of outside of work. So I am steering him towards doing this on the Saturday right after school lets out, because then it's a bike week event. Last winter it was scheduled, or last year it was scheduled at Elm Lawn for spring break, and we were lucky that the weather was cooperative, whereas early June should be no problem. Also, I thought having it right after school lets out is kind of a nice gateway to summer to learn safety, emphasize bike safety. He and I also talked about not having it be a focused at one school, but a community event. So rather than getting into the details now here, I just wanted to let you know that that's a future event and agenda item that we'll discuss.
All right, sounds good. Any other future items to mention now? All right. Hearing nothing, we are done with our agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good night.
See ya.
All right.
Good night.